The defending champions are somehow out, and we are headed to the NBA Conference Finals. We're going to be breaking down the end of the season for the Thunder, for the Denver Nuggets, a little bit Knicks, and let's get into foul trouble.
What a weekend of NBA basketball. Oh, my God. Max, how are we feeling?
Yo, we're going to win this chip, baby.
For those of you who are new, our Max, our producer, is a huge T-Wolves fan. I feel like he's in bigger disbelief than anybody. The roller coaster of confidence from losing 2 straight games to the Suns to end the regular season and the Nuggets, to sweeping the Suns, to 2-0 on the Nuggets, to 3 straight losses, to this.
Closing out in 7 games.
Insane.
This is the most roller coaster of a dominant stretch. But that's Timberwolves, right? You wouldn't have it any other way.
Dude, it's like it's so crazy. I still don't really believe that it's happening. My brother-in-law is a huge Nuggets fan.
Oh, nice.
So I texted him last night. Still haven't heard back.
Hell yeah. Hell
He's
yeah.
just in a pit right now.
Well, needless to say, this is by far the biggest win in Timberwolves history.
Yeah.
This is the second Western Conference Finals that they've ever been to, and actually both came down to a Game 7 to get there. But the last one was against like that early 2000s Kings team. They were already kind of on the downswing. This was against the Denver Nuggets, the prohibitive favorite for the championship. How did we get here? What did you see in Game 7, James?
Yeah, I mean, the first half, I thought Ant was really kind of struggling with the trap. It kind of felt like Ant was really focused on like, okay, I know the trap's coming. I'm going to wait. I'm going to get the ball swinging. But this Timberwolves team, I feel like, isn't really good in like swing situations. And it kind of felt like they come back from halftime. And I'm focusing on Ant, but this was such a team effort, especially like McDaniels was awesome, 7 of 10. Gobert was crazy in the second half. Towns, really good scoring to help them out. But I felt like once Edwards was like, you know what, I'm just going to attack and create, it felt like they got much better offense out of that. I thought Denver, it was kind of weird. They had a 20-point lead, but somehow they couldn't find any minutes for Jokic to rest. I thought that was a little weird, even though I'm not the
definitely gassed by the end of it.
I thought Denver's supporting cast really
let Jokic down.
Lost them the series. Like games 1 and 2, no doubt, Minnesota absolutely crushed it. The next 3, Denver won it. Game 6 was weird because that's the game where Minnesota wins by like 50 points. But Denver has a stretch in the second quarter of that game as the game's going away where they're missing like 10 straight wide open shots. And you're like, dude, can these role players not hit a shot? But then in Game 7, Jokic takes like 8 threes before he's able to hit one. His shot was really off, the whole postseason.
Yeah, especially from long distance. He ended 2 of 10 from 3 in this game in particular. I think Jokic looked really good for the vast majority of this game. And I think he really I
think one thing though with Mike Malone, I don't want to pin it on him, but the not getting Jokic any rest in a game where you're up by 20. You're up by 15. The stretch where they could have rested Jokic is when they're up by 15. And I get wanting to put your foot on the gas because, coming back from 20 in a game where the final score is under 100 is a little bit bigger than coming back 20 down a normal score in today's NBA, I feel like.
I will say in Malone's defense a little bit, I think I know that there was the halftime lead of 15 points that the Nuggets had, but really on the rewatch of this game, the Timberwolves it was either a draw or the Timberwolves had control, I would say, for all but the second quarter of this game in the last 3 minutes of the first quarter. And the Timberwolves were dictating the pace. They were dictating the physicality. And that second quarter, end of first quarter run by the Nuggets was probably the best they looked at any given time. And that second quarter, the start of the second quarter is usually when Jokic rests. And I wonder if it was more of a thing of do we just want to try to bury him right now?
Yeah.
Which they kind of did, and then until they didn't.
I think, though, for Malone, where I'm all right, are we going to get anything out of you? Was how many possessions in a row was it Murray dribbles up the right wing, Jokic posts up around that right elbow, they ping it to Jokic, Murray's guy doubles, Jokic pings it back to Murray reposts Jokic pings it back to Murray. And I'm So are we not going to get any off the ball action with the other three guys on the other side of the court? Are we not going to do anything to help Jokic out here? They had that one play where Jokic pinged it all the way to the corner and they got an open three. But that was the only time we really got the like Jokic made them, pay for double teaming him, because the double came from the close guy and they didn't have to put anyone in rotation because the guy they're doubling off of is like 10 feet away. So he can just shuffle back and forth between the post entry player and Jokic. And I was telling Max this before you got here. I was having Sixers PTSD from watching a Sixers game where it's like, are we just going to let the center just sit here and suffer from a double team and we're not going to help him? And that's what it kind of felt like for a lot of this game, especially at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we got to call a spade, and this was a reservation I had about the Nuggets coming in to this postseason. Of the bench gave them nothing. You got 5 points off the bench. Like we already said, the other three, the non-Jokic and Murray starters, shot the ball 24 times and made it 7 of those times. They were abysmal from 3 for this entire game. And really the last 2 games, they just could not find their shot whatsoever.
I could tell something was wrong by how often Jokic was shooting the 3, even though he was like 0 for 7. He just like kept shooting threes. And I was like,
it felt like Jokic was kind of like, okay, like this is not what we need, but you guys are doing nothing for me here.
And he wasn't about to expend the energy that it takes to like street fight Gobert down low to get 2 points.
But it's like he couldn't even do that because they're just doubling so much. Anytime Jokic like got the ball, it was always a double. I felt like I really did feel like this was kind of like a black mark on Malone. Just like, how do you not have some sort of adjustment for the like that? Like, why are you not running some action where maybe after Murray posts Jokic, someone runs him off on the ball screen, he's going over the top so he can get on the other wing, and then we have that guy cutting around baseline. Like, I don't know. It's just weird that the role players, they're not doing anything in this game, and you're not having them do anything. I feel like I don't want to give the role players a pass, especially Porter, for how bad he was, but it felt like the Nuggets were like trying to play 2v5 at certain points. Like no one is running any actions. Everyone's standing there. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like this was the best offense I feel like we've seen in years. And the last offense that was like, in my opinion, on the level of this Nuggets was those Warriors teams. But the difference with those Warriors teams, like guys are always moving off the ball. They're always setting off the ball screens. They're always moving. And I get that Minnesota makes it tough, but like, I don't know. You're not even trying. And then, Minnesota's defense is incredible.
Yeah, this puts them in the pantheon of great 2000s and post-2000s defenses. We're right there with, like, I would say the early 2000s, like 04 Pistons range. That 2020 Lakers was such an amazing defense. And I mean, we'll get into like what that defense is going to look like against this Mavericks team, which I would say is also probably in the top 25% of defenses that we've seen, especially in the last like 10 years. But let's glaze on the Timberwolves a little bit more. I don't think we've quite been there.
Bro, Cat showed up.
Carl Anthony Towns.
That was not expected.
Okay, did you guys see the ESPN post of Karl Anthony Towns sitting in the stands pregame, just staring out onto the empty court? When I saw that post, it's literally just him, empty arena, sitting, staring out at the empty court. I was like, Karl Anthony Towns is going to have the worst game of his life today.
Oh, no.
This is going to be an all-time meme.
I will say, I feel like as good as he was, we had some crazy Cat moments, like the trying to draw a rip-through foul, but then grabbing the back of Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
The throwing it away on the inbound pass.
Yeah, but I think Cat, previous to this playoff run, kind of had the rep of like a softer player. Mm-hmm. And like, he's obviously not like a hard dude. No. Like, he's not like a gangster dude that's like just in people's head. He's no James Johnson, but he plays with a level of physicality that I think is just like cannot be ignored and must be very annoying to play against.
Yeah, well, I will say it's not ignored by the refs because
That is true. That is true.
5 fouls.
Yeah, 5 fouls.
Yeah.
I think 3 of them were really stupid.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
Big time dumb boy fouls. No, but it was really funny. They
Is
asked.
the line ever below like 4 fouls for that
Dude.
man?
I think it's just like the dumb fouls. The trying to draw a rip through and grabbing the back of the defender's jersey. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one, but like
The thing I'm realizing is that like he actually has since he has played most of his career in foul trouble, he's at a shout out. He actually has gotten kind of good now at playing with 4 to 5 fouls just because he's had so much experience being in that situation.
I feel like this next series is going to be this weird subplot where it's like, how much can Kat and Luka not get mad at the refs?
Oh my god.
Both of them are gonna. They're gonna get. There's gonna be at least one like nose to nose altercation between Kat and Luka, but also Jaden McDaniels. We need this.
He was huge.
Jaden McDaniels is the reason the Timberwolves were able to get back in this game.
Yeah.
He hit 2 gigantic threes in the third quarter, which were just crucial. I think he hit a lot of just timely shots in the first half that kept it manageable, kept it away from being a 20-point game. And then, I mean, he is draped all over this dude, Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray is looking like a mortal starting above average point guard instead of just like the best guard we've ever seen in our lives. Like he looks normally in the postseason.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I mean, I felt the same way too. They asked Ant postgame, when did you know you guys were going to win? And he said when Rudy Gobert hit a turnaround jump shot. And I was like, I kind of felt the same way because I think that put you guys up 6 during that stretch where Denver just could not get a bucket. And I was like, I don't know if they can't. If the lead's bigger than 5, I don't know if Denver can come back at this point.
Yeah, I mean, sneaky important stat. Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, every single one of them out-rebounded Aaron Gordon in this game.
Yeah, I feel like Gordon kind of lost a little bit of confidence there. And I think part of that, too, though, was just going back to this notion, like, they really just didn't involve their role players.
Yeah,
Like,
not
they
as
just
much
didn't
as...
involve them. I mean, I think this summer, if I'm I don't want to do like what Nuggets should do this summer.
I would love to dip our toe in just a little bit.
I mean, I guess, do you feel like they need to make major changes? If I'm the Nuggets, I kind of feel like they need to, I would run it back and just try to find a way to add depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. They are face to face with the second apron right now. And then a lot of their key players are extension eligible. So it's like, how much do you believe in this core? I know that Jamal Murray wasn't exactly at the peak of his health, but Jamal Murray, he has one more year on this contract. He's extension eligible. Obviously, you're going to want to lock him into a long-term deal. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has a player option going into the offseason. What kind of deal is that going to lock you into? And I think this is the time where you start looking around for like, how can we capitalize on the Michael Porter Jr. piece? Like, what does that look like? We might be a year, I think, before that trade actually happens, just because of their pick situation. They did this thing with the Aaron Gordon trade and another trade for, I think it was the Jeremy Grant trade, where the picks have like super specific protections. So they just roll over. So they can't really trade any picks, even though they own their own picks. So it's like, it's kind of difficult. And then like Reggie Jackson, I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but he has a player option. I'm not sure if he'll end up picking it up.
If I'm the Nuggets GM, I personally would just run it back.
Yeah.
I just feel like, when you lose in a game 7, it really does mean it could go either way. Like in this game, like I think game 6 is a good encapsulation of this. The Nuggets, it seems like, I feel like at this point we can all say probably we're not the better team here. I think Minnesota was clearly the better overall team. But even if that's the case, like in a world where Porter Jr. hits like 2 of those open threes, like they could have won this game. So I feel like if I'm the Nuggets, I wouldn't overreact to this. But I think the one concern is just, even though you lose in a game 7 in less than 10 points, there's like, I think in this game there's like the 50-20 run. In game 6, obviously, there's like the crazy Minnesota run. In game 2, there's just like 5 instances of Minnesota going on these like 20-minute spurts of just pure dominance. And I think that's where it's like, okay, how do we add another wrinkle to the offense? I think it's like kind of limiting to this team that there isn't like that other ball handler
yes,
on the perimeter.
yes.
I think that's what they need to find a way to add. I don't know how they're going to do that with the bargain bin hunting, but like a guy like maybe like if it's probably going to be too expensive, but I mean, we've seen players like this get signed from the minimum in the past before they get re-signed to a big contract. Would be like a Dennis Schroeder type of guard. I don't know who that is right now. I haven't sat down and looked at it. Who's a free agent, but I think this team will be able to retool, but they have to actually do it because obviously this past offseason, they basically did nothing other than lose Bruce Brown.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think it's time to stop waiting to see if, like, guys like Peyton Watson, guys like Julian Strawther can turn into real role players and plan like they're not going to. And if they do,
that's great.
That's just found money. But yeah, I mean, hey, I'm looking at every big money guy this offseason, and I'm like, hey, we could call Orlando, see if they would like a second round pick to do away with these like rolling of pick protections. And like, Cleveland, like, you interested in a Michael Porter Jr.? Just wanted to call. We love Donovan Mitchell.
I think the Nuggets are in a weird spot with Porter though, because I feel like after this series, I'm sure a lot of Nuggets fans are like, dude, like, you have one move in your bag. It's the one dribble pull up. If you don't shoot the 3, like, you're not giving us enough defensively to the point where Brown is getting subbed in for you. But I also feel like the best version of this Nuggets team is the version where like he's spacing and he's more of the outlet valve. I think they just need, if he's not going to develop any sort of dribble game, like
$35 million for Grayson Allen, giant Grayson Allen is tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
But I mean, he's a contested shot maker. I don't know. I wouldn't overreact to this if I'm the Nuggets, but I'm with you in that they can't just sit there and be like, we're going to completely run it back. But I wouldn't break the core up until we see this 2 years in a row, personally. Should we get to the Knicks?
Yeah, let's go to the Knicks.
Yeah, I feel like we have to touch on this game. I mean, Brunson obviously gets hurt. He fractures his hand. OG Anunoby gets to play 4 minutes. Josh Hart's playing through an abdomen injury. And, congrats to the Pacers, but I'm just going to say it. I think the Pacers and the Celtics got to walk through fairy tale land to get to the conference finals.
Yeah, it's like a double 2021 Hawks run.
Like, I'm going to give the Pacers credit. The Knicks played really fucking hard this whole series, and like beating the Knicks, even if they're injured, is like, you should when they're this injured. But obviously it's like you still have to grind through it, especially for a young team. The Pacers are such a weird team because they have the profile of a finesse team. They play super fast, they play up and down, but they also have like Andrew Nembhard and Nesmith, who are these like hard nosed, like get in your face guys that usually don't profile on these.
Even
types
Turner can like turn up the intensity.
They're filled with these types of like Siakam, to these types of players that like don't usually fit the profile of that type of up and down team.
I can hear the YouTube comments already. The Pacers fans are so mad right now.
Whoa, we're saying nice things about the Pacers.
I mean, the Pacers absolutely like shot the lights out of the ball in that game. Like, Halliburton was awesome. I mean, the whole team was awesome. McConnell was great. It's just, it's like, I don't even know what to make of the 2 Eastern Conference finalists at this point, because like, you can only play who's in front of you. The Celtics played the Heat without Jimmy Butler. They played the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell for 2 of the games.
And Jared Allen for all of the games.
Yeah, Jared Allen. The Pacers played the Bucks without Giannis for any game, without Dame for some of the games, and then they played the Knicks, who for none of the games had Julius Randle. For none of the games had
they barely had OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Brunson missed 2 halves of this series.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I hate taking away from what teams have done, but like this Eastern Conference Finals just feels so like, okay, Celtics, you were going to be here. Indiana, have you been great? I don't know. You lost to a Bucks team that didn't have Giannis and Dame in one of the games.
Hey, they won the in-season tournament, dude.
They actually lost the in-season
Oh, wait, that's
tournament.
right.
But they made it to the final. Okay, well, I have something to say about Tyrese Halliburton.
Fans.
The last time we podcasted was right after game 5 of this series, which was in New York, and Tyrese Halliburton took 9 shots and looked completely passive. It looked like he didn't want the smoke of the moment. And he came out early in this game 7, and he did what you are supposed to do when you are the clear main star. And he was assertive. He took like 5 threes in the first quarter. He ended up with 26 points. Tyrese Halliburton was awesome in this game. And although I cannot stress how bad OG Anunoby looked. Like, it gave me flashbacks to when Anthony Davis tried to play game 6 of the Lakers-Sun series in 21 and could barely walk in that game. It was just, even though he hit 2 threes right off the bat. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm low-key excited to see this Pacers-Celtics matchup. It's
how funny would it be if the Pacers beat the Celtics?
So I was gonna say I had to review the in-season tournament game where the Pacers eliminated the Celtics and now to the in-season tournament.
There's lore here.
No Tingus Pingus in that game.
Oh, there we go. We're going to get at least one game like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I was looking back at the season series between the Pacers and the Celtics, so it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of like Pacers win by 10, Boston wins by 40. Pacers win by 10.
Yeah, the Celtics scored 155 points in one game against the
And they scored
Pacers.
148 in one of the other ones, right? I want to say
133, 129. Yeah, they scored a lot. But, I mean, the Pacers are scoring over 115 in every one of these games.
They played a lot of their games before the NBA kind of flipped the physicality switch in the regular season. So I don't think we're going to see a Celtics, 150 bomb in any of these games because we can see that a bad defense like the Pacers can kind of scale up when they're allowed to be a lot more physical. But I don't know. I just think it's going to be a lot to handle the Celtics unless the Pacers can turn this. I feel like the Pacers getting a taste of Knicks basketball is the best thing that could have happened to them because now it's all right, if you guys can channel that, maybe you can make this a series. But it's going to be tough because Boston's one of these weird teams that even though they're a bit older can definitely play that up and down style.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely taking the Celtics in this series.
The Celtics.
But I think it could low-key be even more competitive than than the general idea of this series would be. Because, I mean, just looking, so Celtics had 18 losses this year. In 14 of those losses, the team they were playing got up 35 or more threes. That's a given with this Pacers team. They are going to be chucking threes. We saw it in the first round against the Heat. The game the Heat won, they shot more threes than they had ever shot in a playoff game ever before. That's something that the Pacers are going to be very, very comfortable in doing. And it really comes down to, the Pacers do not have great rim protection. Miles Turner had an amazing series, but they generally don't have great rim protection. So Jason Tatum, are you going to be assertive in taking the ball to the cup? Jaylen Brown, are you going to be assertive in doing that? Or are you going to settle for, in this high pace game, taking threes, taking those step back threes? That is the scenario where I see this series turning into Celtics in 6 opposed to Celtics in 4, because the Pacers just become the arbiter of the pace of the series.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pacers could maybe make the rebounding edge a little bit interesting. I think what hurts the Pacers a lot of times, I feel like when we see these kind of more upset type things, it's when teams slow the game down to a physical grind and limit the amount of possessions, because the fewer possessions there are, the more chance for randomness there is. But I think the problem with the Pacers is they like to play at this really fast pace, and the more possessions there are, the more likely I think the Celtics are going to win in any given game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think without Tingus, I think the Pacers can maybe make it interesting on the boards. I mean, it's going to be tough for the Celtics in a way to just kind of run Al Horford the whole time. But I do like that the Celtics can be okay, we've got 2 great perimeter defenders. Either one can go on to, Halliburton, and we've got Tatum, who I think is a pretty good matchup for Siakam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and from the Pacers' point of view, I love Nesmith as a Jason Tatum guard.
Yeah,
it's about as good as you can do.
I feel like we're gonna get a Brown Nesmith altercation at some point in this series.
And it's a Nesmith revenge series, which I love.
All right, what are you picking? I
I
think you're hyping the Pacers up a little much here.
yeah, fuck it. I'll take Celtics in 6.
I'm
Let's
going
go.
Celtics in 5.
I'll take Celtics. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Celtics haven't made like Colin Cowherd do a monologue about them like potentially falling apart yet. And I know that's coming at some point. It might be a finals thing, but
I think okay, I don't know how to put this. I don't feel bad for the Celtics that they've had this cakewalk to the ECF, but I feel bad for the Celtics in that I feel like they're doomed for whatever game 1 of the finals is.
yeah, they're going to lose by 30 points.
Like, I feel like if
game
this
1 of the
Celtics
finals,
team,
that's-
like, they dispatch the Pacers in 5, and then they're like, oh, hi, Minnesota. And Minnesota was like, do you remember me, motherfucker?
Yeah. They're waiting 2.5 weeks to play game 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Celtics, it's really just like play disciplined defense, be disciplined in transition, and just like, I don't know, you're the better team.
Yeah. Get good shots. Do your thing.
Yeah, like, Tingus will come back. I think that's the one area where I'm worried about the Celtics. It's just, if Horford's starting and then, who's backing up Horford, like Xavier Tillman, and all of a sudden it's like Siakam is getting kind of like a layup line at the rim in transition because the Celtics aren't being disciplined. Like, that's where I feel like the Pacers can win. But I kind of feel like that's what we saw with the Celtics the first 2 years. The series is like, you crush the Heat. Okay, we're riding a little too high. We don't play defense in game 2. We lose. Then games 3 through 5, we're like, okay, no, we're going to play defense. Crush the Heat. The same with the Cavs series. Like, you win game 1. Okay, we're riding a little high. You play a little undisciplined. Donovan Mitchell's awesome. You lose game 2. Games 3 through 5, even though Mitchell's not playing, you're still just like, okay, we're going to lock back into our fundamentals, and you crush them. And I feel like that's why I think the series is going to go 5. I feel like it's going to be the same thing. Celtics win game 1. They lose 2 or 3.
Luke Cornett, Sam Hauser, and Peyton Pritchard are going to be just shooting the lights out in Indiana. They're just going to feel right at home.
Oh, yeah. I need a McConnell-Pritchard beef.
Oh, my God. Yeah. They're going to definitely have like some WWE moments at some point in this year. So,
I mean, I guess since we did Nuggets little diatribe, do you want to do that with the Knicks too?
Yeah,
I
just
kind
a
of feel
little
the
bit.
same way about the Knicks I feel about the Nuggets, where I'm just kind of like, you weren't healthy, so just run it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
You
think-
got to see what you've got here. The one thing, if there's like a perfect wing that you can cash your draft picks in on and trade Julius Randle, like if you can pry Mikal Bridges away from the Nets, which I'm very dubious at the possibility of happening, you got to do something like that. But like, I would not, I don't think like a KD trade would really be
I kind of feel
amazing
like, though, for
for
this
them.
Knicks team, you've got a lot of good perimeter scoring from Brunson. You've got great perimeter shooting around him and some of these guys. I think, see what Randall looks like, and he's still the number 2, but it's more like the number 2, 3, 4, depending on the game type of role. And I feel like Randall could be really good in that role. I don't know. I wouldn't be in a rush to trade him. I definitely would just run it back and see what the team looks like healthy.
I mean, the best thing about Randall is he can play next to Brunson, OG, DiVincenzo, and Hart at any given time. Like, he can play next to any of those guys. And when you start talking about like the stars that are on the market, it's like, can Donovan Mitchell play next to DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson all at the same time? It's probably not ideal. And then you're like using such a high percentage of your cap to bring in a guy like that.
I feel like a lot of people really want them to trade for Mikal Bridges. I actually don't think that's a good move for them.
I mean,
I just feel like Mikal Bridges and OG is like this crazy redundancy that we're seeing as an issue across a lot of other teams.
see, I would push back on that. I just think because Mikal, ideally, in the way to like utilize him perfectly, I think Mikal's a 2. And OG, I think he leans more 3-4. And that I like their fit. The where I would quibble is like, I don't know if really that's you have enough like on ball juice
I
at
think
that point.
that's my issue. I think switching Randall for Mikal is removing a wrinkle from the offense and not adding a new one. Really, other than I guess that corner shooting. But
you're really leaning into the defense at that point.
Yeah, I kind of like the Knicks' current team construction to the point where I was thinking about it, where I was like, would I pick them to win the East next year if they were fully healthy?
I know. I've been thinking about that too.
I kind of like that's kind of where I was walking away from that series. But all right, let's get to. I mean, do you want to touch too much on Mavs Thunder? It happened a few days ago, or do we want to just get to the conference final preview there?
Yeah, I want to say goodbye to the Thunder. I mean, I think they just weren't ready for this moment. The second half of that game, the Mavericks were. I know it ended up close at the end.
But what a finish, by the way. I mean,
what a blunder by Sam Presti, though.
Yeah.
What for Sam Presti? What was the blunder?
Sam Presti built the Mavericks. He helped them facilitate the Lively pick. He helped them facilitate the Gafford trade.
That is an interesting point.
And it's crazy because Gafford is like what the Thunder needed.
Yeah.
The Thunder needed size. And this was the craziest thing during the trade deadline was like, everyone's like, the Thunder needs size. The Thunder needs size. The Thunder clearly needs size. The Thunder don't make a trade. And there's all these think pieces. It's like, well, you don't understand. Like, the reason they didn't need size was because Chet allows them to play the way they play. And it's like, dude, what we've seen in the playoffs for the last, 5 years is teams that have versatility, that can play different types of lineups. Timberwolves, they can play this really big, rugged, or they can put Naz Reid in and do double spacing. Nuggets didn't have that other gear on offense, right? And the Lakers, in 2020, it's like they can play the double big and go really big and physical, or they can play AD at the 5 and go, more small. They can play LeBron at point or play him on the wing. I felt like the Thunder we're just like, all right, we're just gonna. I feel like the Thunder were like, how about we just do a beta test this season for the team instead of trying to help them win?
Yeah, it kind of was. It kind of was that, and it makes you think they didn't. At least the front office didn't believe that this team was a true finals contender.
But do you feel like they could have been if they had actually been properly?
Yeah, totally. They could have easily won this series. They could have easily won this series.
I don't know if they could have easily won the series.
I'm just saying, from what we saw, Luka wasn't right at points. I don't think what happened in Game 6 was an isolated series of events. Over and over again, it became just like, okay, Shea, are you going to do what you did in Game 3 and just completely take over the game, will them to a win? Or is it just going to... Because the Mavericks were trying to give away these games.
I know. Well, see, that's the thing with this series. I feel like this series was odd. I keep harping on this just because, the Mavs should have won in 5. They had a game where they shot 30% from the free throw line on a lot of attempts.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm sorry. Kyrie Irving was not good in this series. He is so talented and he has a baseline that's so high, but Kyrie Irving scored 22 points in this closeout game. He is here to score. He is here to facilitate. He had 3 assists. This wasn't this overwhelming typhoon of superstar play from Luka and Kyrie. It was you've got one guy, we've got 2 guys, and at the end of the day, our 2 guys are pretty much going to produce in a way that your one guy is not going to, and nobody else is going to back you up, Shea.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Shea was really good, even in this closeout game.
36 points, 0 turnovers.
I thought Kyrie was pretty good throughout the series. I know he didn't have the big scoring numbers or the big assist numbers, but I didn't ever feel like he broke the flow of their offense. I felt like he got involved a good amount of times. I thought he played pretty well. I don't think he ever really forced the issue in a way where he hurt his team.
I don't think he hurt his team. I'm just saying,
we didn't get hero performances from Luka or
Kyrie.
Even in the last series, we saw those games.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrie, that 3 he hit, that fading to the left 3 on the left wing to close near the end of Game 6 was huge. I mean, that was one of the reasons they won that game. But no, I mean, it's not Chet's fault because Chet was also really good for the Thunder at points in this series. I mean, that one-handed lob finish toward the end of Game 6, crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just getting massacred by Lively. Lively had those 2 back-to-back dunk turned into layups where he tried to jam it over Chet. But Chet just needs to get stronger, and the Thunder need to get an actual big.
Yeah, I mean, and just the other thing for the Thunder really throughout this entire series is a huge part of their math equation throughout the series or throughout the season was shooting threes. And the shot just really wasn't there for pretty much anyone on this team.
Yeah, it kind of feels like with these young teams, you can kind of gamble and be like, all right, are you ready for the moment? And it didn't really feel like the Thunder guys were always ready for the moment. But, I mean, that's what's tough, though. It's a series. Sometimes guys get cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the craziest like single stat of this last game was Lou Dort was actually a plus in his minutes, but he just could not stay out of foul trouble.
No.
Luka was,
Toying
Thanosing
with it.
that whole matchup.
Yeah, I think if you're a Thunder fan, though, you should be happy because I don't think this is like obviously this year's team had this massive structural issue, but the good thing for the Thunder is like the years are connected and the Thunder have all these draft picks and like I'm sure they can get a generic big guy to just help with rebounds and like I don't think putting in a generic big guy will cripple the offense to the point of it not working, which is what I feel like a lot of people were like, this is why they didn't trade for a big. Like if Shea can't operate with a normal big guy, then that's like a real issue.
Yeah. No, you're locked into this team at the like young player price point still. You're $74 million away from the first apron. You're $85 million away from the second apron. There's still, you have so many picks to deal with. I think you can really start working on the margins with a team like this. And you've got maybe the best GM of all time in Sam Presti pulling those strings. So, I mean, you're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
If you're OKC.
I think the one thing I really like and one thing I really don't like, what I saw from Shea is what I really like is like Shea can still get what he wants a lot of the time. And what I really like too was I felt like in some of the earlier games in the series, the Mavericks were like, we know you can shoot threes, but we know you don't really like to shoot threes. So we're going to kind of like leave you quasi open and like let you kind of hesitate and think about it. And I felt like in game 6, Shea was getting way better at like, if I'm somewhat open, I'm popping that three. And like, he's a way better player when he's playing like that. The one thing I really didn't like for Shea, and we already talked about this, is just like, when he isolates, man, it's like, all right, man, you're going to get to exactly 15 feet away from the free throw line and you're going to try to find a way to shoot it. And it's like, dude, you gotta do something else at some point, bro. It can't just be these 15 footers and layups. Like you gotta, I don't know. I think that's the one thing for the Mavericks where it's just, it made it Kyrie and Lucas so much harder to guard is like they could shoot it from anywhere.
But the other half of that is like a huge part of what that is the drive and kick game.
Yeah.
And that was just not fruitful for OKC for vast majorities of this series. We haven't talked much about the Mavericks, but oh my God, like their role players just were so good in this series. Derek Jones Jr., like, what the hell was that?
He's shooting, he's driving. PJ Washington found a 3-point shot. Great defense from PJ on Shea for a lot of this series. I mean, Lively was
incredible. And he was the reason why they won that game, game 6. Just really like
I thought Luka's moving a little bit better.
He definitely
Luka's starting
was,
to move a little bit better. I don't know. When is game 1 of Minnesota-Dallas?
Wednesday.
Oh, that's a lot of time off, Max.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot of time off, but that goes both ways.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Although the Timberwolves don't look like they need a break. They look like they need to get going again.
Let's go.
Josh Giddey is extension eligible. They don't have to extend him this offseason. They have him under contract for 1 more year. I don't think he would sign an extension right now. What would you be looking to do with that piece right now?
I don't know what his trade value is right now. So it's kind of difficult. I mean, I think for them, it's weird, though, because I think that's the scary thing with them, because I feel like for them, they were the Markkanen team, right? Like, oh, let's switch out Giddey for Markkanen. But it's kind of like the one thing, like you're going to add the shooting, you're going to add some size, you're going to add some rebounding. So I think it's all a net positive. But the one thing that's going to be really glaring for regular season play for them is like going from a guy like Giddey, who's a pretty plus passer, to a guy like Markkanen, who's pretty close to bottom of the league in terms of passing ability. Like, I'm a little worried about that, but I think the overall gains in size and shooting would be good for them. But yeah, I just also don't know if Utah's really like trying to help them facilitate that. That's the other part of it too, though.
Yeah, that will be a really interesting subplot there.
Because I feel like with these drive and kick teams like the Thunder, where it's really more about like basic drive and kick, like it really is a lot about swinging the ball. Like Shea pings to Markkanen pings to Isaiah Joe pings to Dort, and Dort hits that like right wing three. And I think it's kind of like in the Minnesota, there was a play where like the Ant set them up in a swing situation, and it's like Towns swung it, but there's like this weird pause where he's like, and I'm like, you gotta swing it like instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's been the sickness for the Suns the last 3 years. It's like
and I think that's my worry with
it.
Markkanen is there'd be games where it's like, oh my god, Markkanen's spacing and he's destroying these closeouts. But I feel like the games where Markkanen is the one who needs to make that one more swing pass, and you get that kind of awkwardness we already saw in OKC's existing offense, is where I'm a little worried.
A Chet Markkanen pick and roll would be so weird and awesome to watch, though.
Yeah, I think I would like to see the Thunder maybe try to develop one more ball handler so they're not always just playing through Shea and J-Dub exclusively.
Yeah, and I think one great thing that OKC fans have to take away from this playoff run is how amazing Cason Wallace looked for a rookie. I think he's like
20 something.
Yeah, 20. I have it right here. 21 years old. Like, to be able to survive in the high leverage playoff moments that he played in, maybe he could, become some form of that ball handler. I don't think he's ever going to be like a high usage guy in the playoffs, but
yeah, I mean, this was a tough series for the Thunder. I know they were the 1 seed, but we highlighted this during the regular season. Both of us said we'd probably pick the Mavs if they were to match up in the playoffs when we did our OKC, preview pod. And it's just, I know Luka was hobbled, but next year if you run these teams back, like I'd pick the Mavs again, because at the end of the day, like I still think Luka. I don't know if he was better this series with his injuries, but fully healthy, I think Luka's still a step ahead of Shea.
Yeah. Production wise, it was pretty much a wash this series, but Luka wasn't right for at least
all
2-3 games.
I still don't
of this
think he's
series.
right.
No.
I just don't think he's right. This is a guy we've seen drop 40 points on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in like 4 games in a row. Like this is he's not right.
Yeah, but also it's the playoffs. Like it depends on how your career goes. But look at Joel Embiid. There's no guarantee you're ever going to be right in a playoff run.
That's true. Well, he's been right in the past, so I feel like this is the exception year. But all right, so the Western Conference Finals, I feel like all of us in here probably feel like Minnesota's got a pretty big edge in this one. They have home court advantage. It feels like, their ability to guard these 2-man actions, these roll actions are going to be pretty good. I mean, especially because, unlike Denver, the Mavs, when they're running these pick and rolls with Lively and Gafford, those guys are going all the way to the rim, which is a little bit nice for Gobert, that he doesn't have to kind of keep playing up onto Jokic and dealing with all that. I think also for Gobert, he doesn't have this. There's no player on the Mavericks bigs that's going to be like, we're going to go right at Gobert and try to contort the Timberwolves defense from the inside. And I feel like this is a series that plays a little bit more into the Timberwolves defense's hands than the Nuggets series, which is crazy because we saw these stretches where they just made the Nuggets look terrible. I mean, I think I don't want to make it seem like the Mavs have no chance, but I feel like if Luka isn't like the Luka we've seen against those Clipper teams where it's like, oh, you're putting Kawhi on me, I don't care, I'm going to drop 40. Like, if they don't get that guy, I don't really see the pathway for them winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Like you said, is Luka's step back on? Because Luka's step back has the ability to change everything for the Mavs offense, open it up in a way that I think even like Jokic on offense, like his shooting, it doesn't have the ceiling to open it up like that. Maybe Jamal Murray's does. But if he doesn't have that setback going, which he really hasn't had at any point of the playoffs this far, I think it could get ugly really, really quick because the Timberwolves are not going to make it easy to get their centers going. And that was kind of the starting point of everything in this OKC series.
Yeah, I think also too, like, I feel like we're coming off of a series for Dallas where we're like kind of blown away by the rebounding. But I feel like in reality, OKC was such a bad rebounding team. And like all season, it was one thing we harped on, like they allow a shit ton of offensive rebounds. And I feel like with Minnesota, like we're kind of like, we're not really thinking of them as a great rebounding team because like Jokic just had 20 boards. But like Jokic might be the single best rebounder in the league. Plus Aaron Gordon is strong and big as shit. Whereas like Lively, good rebounder, good size. PJ Washington, good, decent positional size. But I feel like Minnesota is going to have a massive rebounding edge with their double big lineups in this series.
I also think there's a chance that Anthony Edwards can get the Dallas bigs into foul trouble really, really easily in this series. I mean, my mind goes back to the Clippers series, how early on in that series, we saw James Harden going right past Luka, right past Kyrie, a lot in that series. And he's the kind of guy, and Shea's the kind of guy that they're not going to force the issue and get to the rim. But then when you look at someone like Anthony Edwards, like he's cognizant of those things and he's going to use his athleticism. He's going to try to get to the rim. They don't really have anyone to guard Luka, I will say. Like, I don't love the Jaden McDaniels matchup.
I like it against this hobbled version of Luka.
Yeah, it's about as good as you can do.
I mean, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like when you get hobbled Luka, I like McDaniels on him more than I like Dort on him because of the height. But
it's the strength of Luka that I don't love against Jaden McDaniels.
The thing that's going to be tough with that is just the Timberwolves are just so good at the shuffle double, the shuffle in, double, ping it back really quick. And I think one thing that is going to hurt Dallas in this series is not having Kleber, because I think with the one thing that's nice about Gafford and Lively is like they can play the same style for 48 minutes. But I think what we saw in this Denver series is like if you get to game 5 or 6 against Minnesota and Minnesota's like, we know every one of your actions. I don't know. I think that's a little tough that the Mavs don't have like a change up in their pitch.
Anthony Edwards is going to take the Kyrie matchup very personally as well, which I think is going to be tough to overcome for the Mavericks. I don't think Kyrie's really been like 100% healthy either. Of course, he's like an older player. Looking at the regular season matchup, the Timberwolves took 3 of these meetings, but they all happened before the trades.
Yeah, I think the one thing I like for the Mavericks a lot versus what we just saw from Denver is like, and it's kind of tough because Denver looked fucking awesome at points in the last series, but like, I can't get that image out of my head of like post up Jokic, ping out, repost, ping out, repost. And I think the difference with the Mavericks and what I've really liked about them ever since the trades is like Luka's just drawing doubles off pick and roll, off isolation. But when he pings it to Kyrie has been so good at these 4-on-3 situations that like, I think that's the one thing where if the Timberwolves can't play Luka straight up, I think the Mavericks can make it a little bit more of a series because they've been really good in those 4-on-3s with Kyrie running the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the spacing is a little bit different than the Nuggets spacing when Jokic is like posting, reposting. And I think this is by far the best like opposing matchup for Kyrie. Like the Thunder didn't really have anyone. I mean, Casey Wallace, but he wasn't in the starting group.
Yeah.
And then the Clippers definitely didn't have anyone that you're really, really comfortable throwing on Kyrie. I think.
Well, I feel like we got to give Kyrie some credit though, because coming into that Thunder series, I think we were both like, this could be a rough one for Kyrie, and I felt like he played well.
I mean, he played okay. I expect more from a scoring production standpoint from Kyrie.
I guess for
Bottom
me,
line.
I like that Kyrie is more than just a scorer on this team, whereas I felt like on a lot of his past teams, it was like, all right, that's what you're here to do.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, yeah, he didn't turn the ball over. Didn't turn the ball over. That's you need that.
I feel like we're gonna get the huge Kyrie game because of Patrick.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine.
It's good entertainment.
Hey, no, we're getting a huge Kyrie game because of the comments Anthony Edwards made post game.
Didn't he just say I have to guard him? Isn't that all he said?
Yeah, but like
he said it's going to be fun.
He said it's going to be fun. He said you don't say that without the like a tinge and aura of like I'm about to bust this guy's ass. Yeah. And that's how I read that. That's how I watched that quote.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of read it more as Ant likes just playing against the best players all the time.
For sure.
I kind of read it more like that.
Yeah, you like playing and busting their asses.
We are not that far away from Jamal Murray making that like 50-foot half-court shot and like staring into the camera. Like I feel like we are going to get some Mavs moments that are just as
I guess that's the one thing I feel like maybe we're not giving the Mavs credit for. Like the Mavs are an open 3 factory, and they always have been since Luka's been there. And like their role players are playing way above the level, but like it's only a 7-game series. They could do that 4 more times.
Yeah, but we could also get regression to the mean.
We could.
Of
No,
who
but that's
these players are.
But that's why we play the games.
That's true.
That's why we play the games. No, I'm going to pick the Timberwolves. See, the problem with this series is there's like 2 ways I can envision it going. There's like vision 1 where it's like every single game, Minnesota's getting a stream of like runouts after rebounds. Anthony Edwards is like kind of cruising past whoever they put on him. And Luka's a little bit hobbled and like the ball kind of gets stuck in the backcourt sometimes. Like I can kind of envision that happening like 3 times. But then I can also envision a version of the series where like all of a sudden we get to game 1 and Luka looks really fucking good again. And it's like, whoa, okay. They can't really guard Luka one-on-one. And now the Mavs, now they're getting open shots for Derek Jones a lot. I'm going to split hairs and go Timberwolves in 6.
Hey.
Yeah, that's right. I was definitely leaning more Timberwolves in 5 than Timberwolves in 7. I think Timberwolves in 6 is the right way to go. It's the safe. It's way to go. But yeah, I am definitely not choosing against this fucking Timberwolves team again. This
team is
a
different.
3rd time in a row. This team is different. And yeah, I don't know. Just like I still feel like we didn't talk enough just like how insane it is for a team led by a 22-year-old superstar to take out the reigning champion, a 3-time MVP in his prime. Like, it just, like, I cannot even stress how much this does not happen, how unprecedented this is. Like, you got to look at, like, LeBron in 2007 when he took out the Pistons and kind of announced himself.
I was kind of thinking because I feel like, you know, I'm 28, like we're all around the same age. And I feel like all of us grew up in this era of like the LeBron James Eastern Conference run and the Warriors dominance. And I feel like, like when I first started watching basketball, it was like the Pistons are going to the ECF every single year. And the Lakers are going to go to 3 straight finals before LeBron goes to 8 straight finals. And I feel like NBA history has said like champions go back to back. It's kind of weird when a team only wins once, or, a team will win, lose, then win again. But we're in this new era now where champion hasn't made it past the 2nd round since 2019.
Yeah. This will be like our seventh new like champion.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of recalibrating I feel like needs to go on, because I feel like we're so like, okay, the defending champs, they're that team. And I felt like Denver, like I really do think Denver was better than like the at least 4 teams before them personally, but like
yeah, I would
probably take them over that Warriors team, the Bucks team.
I think that Bucks team was really, really, really good. But I would probably I think
that Bucks team was an inch away from not being a footnote in history, but
well, I mean, yes, but also like that Bucks team was injured during that run.
That's
like
true.
It's not like that Nuggets team had a very unique circumstance in they were pretty much healthy throughout the entire run last postseason, which has been very rare in the last couple of years of NBA history.
But yeah, I definitely feel like we're entering this era of, new NBA basketball where it does feel a little bit more collegey. And I think that's just because there's such an infusion of talent that every single team has guys who can kind of just go off. Like the Knicks last night, I know they got destroyed, but like Alec Burks, maybe
Maxim.
Yeah, but I think too, it's like for the Timberwolves too, it's like this really cool thing, but it could be a flash in a pan moment. I hate to say that just because like we saw like Memphis, like 2 seed last year. Great. I thought Memphis was pretty good. Like Steven Adams gets hurt. They lose in the 1st round. The next season, Jaw's out the whole year. And like, all right, what is Memphis going to be next year?
And we thought like they traded for Marcus Smart this offseason. It seemed like
they're going in again.
Yeah, they're going all in. I think that's a really good point. It feels like the NFL to me.
It does kind of feel like the NFL. It's just weird because I feel like it's like we've had in the basketball, usually when the young team ascends, they stay up there. But it's like I feel like if you go through the West the last few years, it's like one of the top 3 scenes is like one of these crazy good young teams, and then all of a sudden they're just gone.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy.
We saw it with the Suns. I mean, that Mavs team that went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, let's not kid ourselves. This is a completely different Mavs
Oh,
team.
everyone but Luka.
Luka's the only thing that's
Yeah, like
carrying
Powell and
over.
Kleba are the only like holdovers. And Hardaway, I guess Hardaway, but yeah, like the real structure, the guys who are playing the 35-minute pluses are all new.
I mean, even that Warriors team feels just like a complete fluke of circumstance and like just them getting there. And they were a pretty good team. I mean, I don't think even the teams that are left right now, I don't think either one of them would just like sweep that Warriors team. I think that would be
The 2022 Warriors?
Yeah. That would be a really hard fought series. Yeah. And as much as I'm trying to like contextualize the Timberwolves in the vein of Ant, I think not only the playoffs and the results are like NFL-ized, like it goes down to the depth of these teams. Mm-hmm. You need depth. That's why the Knicks made it as far. The Knicks had no business. If a team in 2012 lost 5 of their top 8 dudes, they're not winning a game.
Yeah, I think, is it health as much as depth though? Because I guess for the like, do you consider depth to having that one really good guy off the bench, or is it like really about having like 3 or 4 guys? Because in that Game 7, the Timberwolves, like Naz Reid is awesome. Came in fourth quarter, he's amazing, but they got nothing else from their bench.
I mean, I just think it has to do with guys that you're okay playing in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Like,
but I guess that's with the Timberwolves. I guess Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you definitely qualify as being okay with playing.
Yeah.
So they only had 7 guys though.
But Kyle Anderson, although he didn't play that
he
much,
should not have played at all.
but he has had moments in the playoffs where he's played relatively big minutes and he has been fine.
Yeah.
I would still say the Timberwolves have 7 guys. But no, I'm with you. I think it's really more about quality of depth than quantity of depth, I guess is my point. Because I think I'd almost rather be a team like the Timberwolves where I can bring in Naz Reid and he can either continue what I'm doing or be a wrench where he switches the game in some way, than be a team that has like, okay, I've got 4 guys I can bring off the bench, but none of them are in the same tier as a Naz Reid or even a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I feel like the Timberwolves can bring in and be like, you can play defense and hit some threes.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, it's like, yeah. So Timberwolves had, we'll say 7 guys that they were really comfortable with. The Nuggets had 5 guys, 6 guys.
Brown in the starters.
Yeah, I guess Brown is in that. Like he was good yesterday. Pacers, they had 7 guys, sometimes 8 guys that got really good minutes. If you're in, I would say Toppin is in there. TJ McConnell is definitely in there.
Yeah.
Isaiah Jackson had moments. I wouldn't really put him in there. And then Ben Shepherd had great moments. But then you look at the Knicks, it's like you had OG, you had Isaiah, you had Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo. Achua had so many great minutes for them. Bogdanovich won them games. Burks had really, really great moments for them. That team is one of the deeper teams we have seen.
I think it's a health thing. I think all the teams remaining have a good amount of depth, but it's health. If guys aren't healthy, your depth goes away.
Yeah, Mavericks. You got Lively. And then honestly, it's kind of like Green was okay in spots. Hardy was okay in spots. Hardaway Jr. had 1.5 games where
Hardaway Jr. is the most binary NBA player of all time. He's either good or bad. There's no like, okay, Tim Hardaway Jr. game.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at the Thunder too. Cason Wallace, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins coming off the bench. Like all 4 of those guys, you were feeling more than comfortable.
Maybe not Giddey at certain points in that series.
At certain points.
I feel like Giddey maybe is a more of a series matchup dependent one. But yeah, it's definitely tough because I feel like even with the Thunder too, like I thought Wallace was good, but none of those guys are a Naz Reid.
No. But I mean, how often do we have a guy
Not
as
often.
talented as Naz Reid that is on the bench?
Yeah, I think it really is more about health than depth, I guess is the way I'm coming away feeling about it. Just because I'm seeing a team like the T-Wolves have 7 guys and like that's all they need.
Yeah.
Because they're young and they can play big minutes.
Well, okay, give it to me straight here, guys. Like, is Naz Reid going to be on the Timberwolves next season?
Hey, yeah, he's signed.
You really think he's going to not? I mean, isn't it easy for some team to offer him like more money and just scoop him up?
No. They extended him, did they not?
Okay.
Yeah. No, the Timberwolves are.
I think if one of the big guys is going to be lost for money reasons because the owners don't want to pay the crazy taxes, I think it's going to be Gobert. just because the team had the number one defense by like a mile with Gobert, but they were still the number one defense with a gap without him. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Naz Reid is kind of this like, can't lose him. I don't know.
I mean, those options, in my opinion, are 2, if not 3 years down the line at this point. They made the Western Conference fucking finals.
Yeah, let's not break them up yet.
Like, they are not being broken up. You've got Glenn Taylor, who like destroyed the sale of the Timberwolves to maintain this roster. And so, like, in my opinion, there is nothing he can say to get out of just sucking it up. They're going to be a second apron team with a bullet. It's going to be difficult for them to add talent from here on out. And you know what? That's fine. You've got your guys. You just got to keep paying for them and keep rolling it along.
Can I give a shout out to one more Timberwolf who I feel like is the sneaky greatest player on the team?
Mike Conley?
He's out game 5. They get obliterated. He comes back and they win game 6 and 7. And he is the highest plus minus in a game where he's 3 of 10.
That was the first thing Ant said when they asked him, like, what was the secret to winning this game? He was like, Mike Conley. Like, it's simple. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing Conley gives them that they just don't have, even Ant, is just like when they run a pick and roll with Conley, and like Conley has like enough airspace to get a shot up, like he can shoot the 3, and it's like this weird element of their pick and roll game that like only Conley brings to their team, and it helps open the offense up so much.
You got to be sick if you're a Jazz fan watching
them succeed.
What has happened with this Timberwolves team. Because, like, I know it's fun to hate on the Jazz. I love hating the Jazz. I love hating the Jazz.
I didn't know that.
But
I thought you liked the Jazz.
No, fuck the Jazz.
Wait, I didn't know you were a Jazz hater this whole time.
Where
did this come from?
I mean, I'm a Suns fan. I don't like any Western Conference teams. But they had such a good run. And they had prime Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Prime Mike Conley. Post-prime, but prime Mike Conley. And they didn't make the Western Conference Finals once.
Yeah.
They didn't make the Western Conference Finals once.
Those teams were
were good. They won like over 50 games like 3 years in a row. And
No, they're good but they're like the Cavs. They're a good regular season team.
They were tied 2-2 with the Clippers. In that game 4, Kawhi Leonard goes out. And what do? But vomit all over themselves. Like, I'm just saying, if I'm a Jazz fan, I am the biggest Mavericks fan ever.
Really?
If I'm a Jazz fan.
Yeah.
I feel like Jazz fans are rooting for these guys.
James, you've never been a bitter fan before.
I have been a bitter fan. I root for the Giants in football. I've been bitter.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know. I root for Odell when he plays for other teams, but I feel like Jazz fans, from what I've seen online, are liking this Timberwolves team.
Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Maybe
what's funny to me about this Timberwolves success is like so much of it is just like, oh, you want to play good basketball, you play good defense. Like, oh, you want to like having a true point guard lead your team is good. Smart. It's good.
Yeah.
Like playing defense is good. Having an old school center who's just like a tree is good.
I feel like the Timberwolves are like a long thesis statement against the Phoenix Suns.
They are 100,000,000%.
Okay, should we get the best take, worst take?
Yeah, let's get there. Okay, it's been a long week. Did you find anything?
I have a worst take. I don't have a best take.
Okay. My best take. What did I have for a best take?
I have a best take.
Is it Bring Your Ass?
No, it's not that one, but it is a Timberwolves take.
All right, you fill in best take for me then.
Okay, my take in the post-game presser, one of the reporters is like, sometimes people say that like you have to really lose to like earn your success. Like you really need to lose over and over again. And Ant and Kat are like, we lost last year. We lost the year before. We've been losing for 20 years. What are you talking about? Like you need to like make it all the way to the finals and lose several times before you like deserve to win a chip. Like I thought that was a great take by them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, my best take was just Michael Malone after the game. He said, "This is just a momentary delay. Failure is not fatal. We'll be back." And like, I feel like this Nuggets team. I saw someone tweet it. They kind of have Spurs energy in that, like, kind of like Tim Duncan would win a title. And then
they never went back to back.
He would kind of need to like rev himself up, give him like he's not like Jordan in the sense that he's gonna make up like his motivation to win the next title.
They never went back to back.
So I think the Nuggets will definitely be back. Whether they'll win more titles, I don't know. That's really tough.
Yeah.
But they're gonna be a contender in this league for a long time. James, what's your worst take?
Okay. I feel like we've had some truly terrible takes throughout this NBA season. And this one I feel like is low-key an awful, horrible take, but it's like a harmless, horrible take.
Okay.
It's going to Bill Simmons.
Ooh, my favorite.
Earlier this week, when the Nuggets were on their kind of riding high 3-game streak, said, I think the Timberwolves might be losing because Chris Finch isn't allowed to stand on the sidelines. Which I did a double take.
Yeah.
And I was like, that might be the stupidest thing anyone's ever said. That, like, he's sitting there. And, and the other guy in the podcast is like, you think that makes a difference? He's like, yeah, you're not walking around. I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about?
If anything, it's exposing the fact that like coaches don't actually need to be roving on the sidelines the entire game.
Yeah.
More of the NFLication of the NBA.
Yeah, it's like, it's such a harmless take, but it was just so flagrantly stupid that I was like, okay.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I'm sure Chris Finch standing up would have prevented Jokic from hitting 30 miracle shots in Game 5.
Yeah, Bill was on one during this series because after Game 2, he was like, the Timberwolves are going to sweep. And then after the Nuggets won, I think Game 5, he was like, there's no way the Timberwolves win another game in this series. And then, of course, what happened.
Also last night he did tweet like, do we need to change the cat narrative now? Like narrative shifting on cat alert? I don't know. I'm like, I hope that's not a curse.
This is the Bill Simmons special too, is having a personal narrative about a player.
Oh yeah.
And then it shifts and he's like, well, the way we're all talking about him, it's like, it's
just you, Bill.
He has been priming the Luka downfall like parade for months now. And when Dallas ended up closing out OKC, he just like, it was so, and like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not a Mavs fan at all, but like, it was even funny to me how like salty he was because he couldn't fire off his like, oh, Luka needs to stop complaining all the time takes.
No, wait. Can we do another one of his? It's so bad. I felt like I should have brought this up, but there's just so many bad takes that every time a Lakers role player doesn't play well, it's like, how can a Lakers role player play well when they're worried about LeBron trading them the whole time? Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you hate LeBron so much.
Bill, you're still my GOAT, but
yeah,
oh my
I
God.
love Bill, but that I gotta say that Chris Finch take was just
I thought the same thing.
I was driving to Jamba Juice and I had to pull over and just take a deep breath. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What? All right, what is your worst take?
So I kind of had a tough time with this one. I have two nominees that I don't think they're the strongest nominees, but they're my nominees nonetheless. My first one was Draymond when he said the Knicks are a fluke. Why do Knicks fans think I hate them, though? I told the truth about this team, and the truth about this team is it's a fluke. I have never in my life heard the word fluke fly around for the most injured team of a given playoffs. Like, it's not like they're the Celtics and they're just going past all these injured teams. They barely have any players healthy. So I thought that was
They also had the
a
most
bad take.
impressive round one win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. on that. And then my other worst take was Jaden McDaniels. What the hell were you doing? With 22 seconds left, the off the floor oop to yourself that you miss. Like, that's just, I don't know.
Done without that.
It was pretty tasteless, in my opinion. Like, act like you've been there before when you're beating the reigning champ. I thought that was a terrible, terrible take.
It was. That was not the coolest moment. Yeah, I remember watching that being like, oh, he really tried that.
Yeah, against different teams, even in this postseason, like hands are being thrown.
Yeah. Can we do one more worst take? Even though it happened such a long time ago. Wasn't the Draymond take also not this week, or was that this week?
It was 5 days ago.
5 days ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see at the Mavs post-game presser that apparently ESPN graded the Kyrie Irving trade a D for the Mavericks?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I feel like we just have to
that's
bring that
pretty
up
tough.
for worst take this week because
You
they
know
asked
what?
Luka
But
and Kyrie about
I
it.
can't give that worst take because at the time, like, I wouldn't have touched Kyrie with the 25.5-foot pole.
Yeah.
Like, Kyrie
But
was
that's-
the most toxic.
That's true, but that's the thing about takes. They can get proven wrong later. There's two
guess.
ways to go about takes. You know, you can either keep saying the take over and over again until it's right.
Hashtag Bill Simmons.
Yeah, the PFT special. Or you could or I mean that's the thing though. That's when you have a take, you utter a take into the world, you could be wrong.
I guess, but I mean,
I'm with you.
they
At the
did
time-
miss the playoffs last year as well.
They did.
I know that's a little noisy, but they missed the playoffs last year.
So that's not your vote.
So no, that's not my vote.
Okay, I kind of want to vote for the Bill one just because it's so off the wall and so dumb that I feel like it deserves a spot in our end of the month nominees.
The Bill one is good. The Jaden McDaniels one I do like. It's a unique bad take in that it's on the
It has
toilet.
no words for it.
No words. It's all actions.
But he doesn't deserve a. I'm not after that performance. I don't think.
Okay, fine. I'll give it to Bill. I'll give it to
we'll
Bill.
give it to Bill.
First
All right.
time winner for
worst
Bill
take.
Simmons.
Yeah. How did he skate by for so long?
I don't know. It's crazy. Well, we're getting into the off season, which is where Bill really likes to cook on the bad takes.
Especially when the Celtics are good.
Oh yeah. And if there's any like Pacers, if the Pacers do win 2 games in this series, the takes are gonna be wild coming from the BS pod.
But will they be wrong? Thank you guys for watching. We will catch you on the Thursday pod after game 1 of Denver, Minnesota. When do we have game 1 of the East? Is that
It's
Tuesday?
on Tuesday. Yeah.
Ooh, game 1 reactions. So I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about Minnesota and a little bit about the East again. All right. Peace.